Hello, this is Jason. I'm an engineer on the DevTools team, and I'm going to quickly look at this Mochitest that Alex Wong started to test clicking the pause button and seeing if that will truly invoke a pause. So here's the PR. I can click on Review Changes, and we see it's a new test, which means he added to the browser ini, and he made a new file. Debug pause on next. And the test loads doc scripts. It selects a source. He clicks on a pause element. We'll have to look and see what that is. Waits for a break on next to be fired. And then adds a breakpoint and invokes some thing. I don't know what. And it seems like we're going to pause somewhere. And either we pause because of the pause button or the breakpoint. So I know off the bat I want to remove this breakpoint and I want to make sure we do pause. But before working on the test, let's see what the behavior is in the debugger. And to do that, I'll go to localhost 8000, integration, examples, docscripts. And this URL kind of frustrates me because it's really long, but we're basically just going to docscripts. And in here, we could take a look. Docscripts has 3 scripts, and I assume simple is somewhere in here. Yeah, okay. So the button here will fire the command, or I guess invoke the function simple. And if we jump back, that's defined here. So if I add a breakpoint and click, it will pause. And if I type simple down here, it'll also pause. So I'm curious about is if I click the pause button over here and then run simple, will it pause? Okay, it does. It doesn't pause in the function, but it pauses at this watch expression, console evaluation. If I step in, it takes us there. Okay, good. So let's see here. Well, I'll jump back to the test and I'll open it in my editor. Pause on next. I've already pulled the branch down. That was all I did before looking at this. So the first thing I want to know is whether we click on that button, and I'll get rid of this, and this, and then that. So, you know what, before going too deep, let's just run this and see what we see. So in the terminal, I've opened up another tab and run, well, I don't need that actually. I run yarn watch, which I'm hoping will transpile, but maybe not. Let's rerun yarn. We just recently updated our scripts so that they will both use Webpack and Babel independently, which sounds like a lot of work, but the goal was to make bundles for the debugger workers and to use Babel for the debugger sources so that we can check in these sources independently. And I think when I was switching branches before this, I went to a branch that didn't have this work, and now over here it does, so I had to rerun yarn. Let's see if that fixes it. So see, it's running yarn copy assets and copy modules. Modules is Babel, assets is Webpack. And in the end, we'd want to just be using Babel, but some things do require Webpack. Okay, so copy assets seems to have worked. Copy modules claims to transpile the debugger modules. So I'm going to assume everything's good. Yeah, you can see over here, yarn start was not happy with me, but I'll get rid of that. And I'll run yarn mochi dbg, pause on next, which hopefully will run our new Mochitest. So Yarn Mochi H is equivalent to Yarn Mochi headless, and that expands out to mock Mochitest, headless, dbg pause on next, and if everything worked, we have the new Mochitest in the Firefox directory, and mock Mochitest will pick it up. First run usually takes a little bit of time, but from there it's not so bad. And because it's headless, we're not going to see anything on the screen if this works, but we will get all the log output. It's just a little bit more pleasant. If it doesn't, we'll have to cd into Firefox and see what's going on. And I'll just pull this up over here and move this over here a bit. And while this is doing its thing, we can see what this is about. So click element is defined in Mochitest head, I believe. You know what? We've refactored this code. I didn't realize the refactoring landed. All right, so test, Mochitest, and we'll scroll down. We've got head and now helpers. And what we're looking for is click element. So click element takes the element name and looks for the element, and looks for the selector. There we go. My computer is going really, really slowly because QuickTime. Because QuickTime is a pain. And what we want is to find the pause name in here. So I'll just click up here and search pause. And there we go. Okay, so pause is .pause.active. So if we found something, we'll click it. If not, nothing good will happen. And I'm kind of getting bored over here, so let's just do it ourselves. The reason we run Mochi first is it outputs a nicer log, but if we just want to see if it's working, using mock Mochitest is fine. So this will only find something if the pause button is active. Let's make a note of that. Here we go. So we're starting up very slowly. And I haven't seen anything interesting yet in these logs. This is just establishing the connection. Marionette, if you see that, is just the test harness. But here we go. We've started, pause on next. We've headlessly opened a new tab. And we're evaluating a bunch of console stuff, opening the toolbox. Yada, 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 yada. Now we're getting some messages from the actual test run. See action, select source, load source. So we've loaded some stuff. Pause points. I'm guessing we've paused and I just missed that. No, never mind. We invoked simple and nothing happened. We didn't pause. Okay. The good news is we ran the test. We confirmed our hypothesis, which was there was something wrong with this test, but we don't yet know what. So we do know that break on next was fired. Uh, and we know that calling simple did not pause. So I'm guessing that this fired too soon, maybe. Go to actions, pause, break. Yeah, break on next. Okay. So this is the action that's fired. Uh, this is the action that's fired. Look how nice it is. See, we tell the client we want to break on next, and we immediately break on next. I think it'd be better if we waited for the client to say we've finished, and then we break on next. This might just be like your classic race condition. It's pretty sad that Mochi is not, or Yarn Mochi is not working. But let's just see what that does. And again, my theory is that while we're waiting for break on next to finish, here, we finished immediately, so there was nothing to wait for. The other thing I want to look at is, yeah, we're saying break on next. What does that do? This is more of me just being curious than fixing anything per se, but yeah, so break on next sets is waiting on break true. Okay. One reason I wanted to look was this value thing. It's not being used. Let's kill it. The other reason I wanted to look was if we're setting is waiting on break. By the way, that's a pretty awkward name. It should just be like pause on next or something. Yeah. If we've got that, then we can go over here, and instead of waiting for the dispatch, we can await something better. So what are the pros and cons? The pro of waiting for dispatch is that if you really want to be precise, perhaps you want to know that there's dispatch and that matters. Like the ordering of the actions might matter. The advantage of state is that you don't really care when the action was fired. You just care that the store believes we're waiting on the next break. If you're worried about a race condition, for instance, like one action firing before another, or you think they might be changed, or you think there might be some stuff that's going to happen in the thunk after or before the dispatch, or you might not listen soon enough for the dispatch, just wait on the state. I try to avoid wait for dispatch. I don't know the exact statistics, but we have a lot more wait for state than wait for dispatch. And if we can use wait for state, we will. So the test finished. We passed. Passing means invoking simple and waiting for paused succeeded in that we at some point were paused, and the assertion succeeded, which means we had all the pause state. That's good. I'm going to do a quick manual verification, but I'm feeling pretty good about this. So I'm going to replace headless with JS debugger. And here, when we run it again, we're actually going to run the full browser, and we'll pause at the end of the test, and we can see what's going on. And the other thing is, these logs are good for development, but we just don't need them in the real test. We'll get enough in the terminal without it. And again, I don't think we need to select source. We do need to click. We need to invoke. Oops. Selectors is paused. Are we using that? Get state. Are we using that? No. So we can get rid of that. And that test is looking smaller. Now, when Firefox opens, it's going to open a separate toolbox that points at the browser. So we should see that here, and Firefox is here. The next thing that's going to happen is, whoa, oh boy. Yeah, that's no bueno. The next thing that's going to happen is you're going to see a really terrible looking debugger. Oh boy. I love how this test like presumably passes, even though everything about it is bad. dbg.store is undefined. Yeah. This should have been a comma. But I mean, everything else is bad. Okay. So automated testing can pass even when you're in a pretty funny state. This is probably happening because I need to do an update to the Firefox directory so that it's got the latest stuff. But I'll tell you what, if this test passes and that there's a button, when I click the button, it sets break on next, and then when I fire a console message, it pauses, I'll consider this a success regardless of whether the debugger itself is garbage. I don't care, right? You know, it's kind of like a statement that the React Redux architecture is so great that it works when everything else is failing. You know, it's easy for it to pass when everything's golden, but what about when things are not? All right, so here's the toolbox. Firefox is coming in now. Yep, I see it. Moving it over to the other window. And this time I'm not going to be so surprised when everything is bad. But we can watch, and we should expect that it will pause at the end. I do think that we should pause. Well, no, it didn't. And it's saying get is waiting on break is not defined. Oh, that makes sense. This is a selector. Okay, one more time. While that's queuing up, I'll just look at this test one more time. The test in its DBG, it clicks on the element. We wait for get waiting on break to complete. We invoke this one function and we wait to pause. These expression selectors, that came from another test probably, so I'm just going to remove that. Test that breakpoints are hit in various situations. That's not right. Test that oh, here we go. The test is starting up. Test that when pause on next is selected, we pause. Oh, sorry. Test is running. Here's Firefox. We started the test. Doesn't that thing look so good? That's exactly what the debugger should look like. So we look at the bottom. I see all these add sources. This debugger is paused. Yeah, you can see we paused when we had a debugger statement on line 15. So yeah, uh, I would I would say this is a success. Yeah, yeah, sure. That line was hit. Um, there's nothing to see here. But you know, it's probably pretty good. All right, great. Um, so let me see what we've done here. I'll just CD. Um, so this is what we finished with. And this is what we started with. It doesn't matter. The main thing was we got rid of a lot of cruft. We didn't need this. We stopped listening for break on next. We didn't have the breakpoint. We don't need the source. And we realized that clicking pause and invoking simple was happening too soon. We really needed to wait for this state to happen, and we had to slow down break on next because, remember, it wasn't waiting for the success. And clean this up a bit more. That was basically what we were left with. Yeah. So I'll just finish this off. This was issue 5546. We had some tweaks on just push them and talk about it on the issue. All right. Thanks everyone for watching the video, and I hope you learned some things that were useful. Bye-bye.